Relationship and association, taken from the method of the SIDDHAS. Talks with Heartmaster Dalavananda, the Avadhuta Darfrijan, on the spiritual technique of the saviours of mankind. He says, I was talking to someone here the other day about certain associations we have with people, with environments, whatever. This particular person was wondering whether some old relationships he was caught in would continue even though he became involved in a real spiritual life. He wanted to know whether these friendships would necessarily come to an end, or if, in fact, they could continue if he were involved in this work. I pointed out to him that many of our involvements are not relationships at all, and they are not true friendships. They are simply associations. They are essentially forms of our own desire. Such associations with people, with environments, with whatever, enable us at will to indulge certain qualities of experience. As such, these are not relationships at all. They function truly as forms of our desires. Even though there seems to be someone there, a person, a place, a thing, in fact, we are not enjoying relationship. We simply have this association that reflects our desire and gives the opportunity for the indulgence of it, the satisfaction of it, the consideration of it. Associations come and go, just as desires come and go, but relationship is the very function and form of consciousness. And truly, it has neither beginning nor end. Where there is genuine relationship with an individual, a place, a thing, an environment, it is not a subject to the quality of desire. Desire doesn't create it. The end of desire or the change of desire doesn't bring it to an end. Where relationship is discovered and lived, it never does come to an end. Its quality may change, and there may be apparent separations in time and space, but the relationship itself is fundamental, continuous, real. Where there is relationship, there tends to be apparent growth, intensification, change, but it doesn't come to an end. Associations, however, do come and go. Associations belong to periods of our lives, stages in our experience. They are functions of time, space, and desire. Therefore, when some particular desire or desire itself ceases to be the point of view of conscious life, associations tend to fall apart, disappear, come to an end. But when there is perfect radical understanding, there are no longer any associations at all. There is only relationship. There is no separation, and relationship is enjoyed under all circumstances, all conditions, with all beings, in all environments. Because men are identified with their own desires and live by the habit of association rather than relationship, there is suffering. Because men do not become more for one another than extensions of their own minds, their own desires, there is no relationship. Therefore, the communication of consciousness does not take place. Until there is perfect understanding, there is the tendency to mere association through desire, even with those with whom we enjoy the quality of relationship. Thus, all our genuine relationships also involve conflict. They are always threatened by mere desire, mere association. We move in and out of them. We never truly enjoy them, except in brief moments. Where there are simply associations in the form of desire, our connections tend to disappear, and certain relationships tend to become corrupted, destroyed, impossible at times. But all separation is an illusion. It is impossible for there to be any separation. There is no such thing. It has never occurred. There is no separately existing thing anywhere. There is no separately existing being anywhere. There is no separate anything. It is only an impression created by disturbance, by this compulsive contraction I have often described. When it comes to an end, when the avoidance of relationship comes to an end, there is no difference, this or that. All separation is an illusion, and all attainments are an illusion. There is no separation, and there is no attainment of a union. The state of the ordinary yogi is as much an illusion as the state of the dying, suffering man. The one who suffers thinks he has become absolutely small, and the expansive yogi thinks he has become absolutely great. But when a man thinks he has become great, he truly suspects that he is small. In truth, there is only the penetration of our search, the recognition of it, and then existence becomes enjoyment. Men are busy communicating their own mind forms, their own contracted cognitions, rather than consciousness itself. So men are only punishing one another. Everyone creates pain for everyone else. Everyone reinforces the illusion of separate life. Therefore, everyone is seeking. Everyone suspects it is somewhere else, or that it doesn't exist. But where there is the recognition of that whole search, there is only the communication of consciousness itself, that very force, that power that is reality in relationship. And that communication is satsang, the communication, condition, or company of truth. Where the force of reality is communicated in relationship, the enjoyers of it are assumed by it, acquired by it. This communication undermines the ordinary assumptions until a man ceases to believe them and he becomes intelligent with truth. All men are simply distracted and turned in on themselves. They appear to have been born, but they are still bent. Every man, in fear of the born condition, lives not straightened from the curve of the womb. And all other men, since they are in the same state, only reinforce that fear that makes men bend and curve inward. But one who understands, exists, and lives as the subtle communication of that which makes it possible for men to open, uncurl, or turn into relationship. Therefore, restoration in the process of truth has been called second birth. Until a man becomes capable of existence in this apparent or human form, open in relationship, he tends to reject the force of existence in a continuously repeated ritual activity. It is something like vomiting. The force of life is abandoned constantly. Even laughter is a form of this ritual abandonment. Sexual indulgence is a form of it. Ordinary perception is a form of it. It is the release, the failure to conduct the power of life. It is unconsciousness, sleep, the refusal to be born, and its symptoms are a life that is not in relationship, that is not whole, that is full of disease, confusion, mystery. Such a life cannot function. It only forever seeks its own release, as if the release from life were the goal of life. In satsang, in the relationship to the Guru, the man of understanding, this rejection of the force of life, of birth, tends to become quieted, and the life form tends to conduct the power of life rather than reject it. The subtle form of a man's life is something like a sphere in which the power of life consciousness continually moves down from above and then returns upward again once it has passed through the deepest place below. It is not rejected. It is conducted. The force of life rounds the heart like the planets around the sun. And the true heart or self is the sun of man's nature. The fullness men begin to feel in satsang, in the company of the man of understanding, in this power, in this relationship, allowed to be conducted downward in the life form and allowed to ascend in the natural way by the spinal path. Not by rejection, this ritual vomiting, but by spontaneous conductivity. The transcendent life power is turned and returned in a spherical cycle that is completely at ease, without dilemma. Some begin to feel this fullness in satsang because they are insensitive to the descent of force and the opening it allows. Some begin to feel ecstatic and moved in various ways because they are sensitive to the ascent of the same force. Others begin to experience a relaxing and even shattering of the ordinary structure of consciousness, and the true nature of all things becomes, at times, somehow obvious. When the sun, the heart of reality, the force of consciousness at the root of this, is enjoyed, that is understanding, realization. From its point of view, all of this is obvious. The spiritual and religious traditions transmit various aspects of this phenomenon of second birth. The religious search, particularly the form of seeking characteristic of Western man, is a reception of descending power, the power of God that comes from on high, that may even incarnate itself and come down so that men may receive it. The traditional Western man, and in general the religious type of man, looks to receive this spirit, to receive the powers of the divine, and bring the grace of this power down into life. The Eastern man and the spiritual man in general are sensitive to the ascending movement. Yoga is a ritualization of this process of ascent to the divine, just as religion is essentially formal or ritual means for becoming at ease, receptive, full of the divine. But these two, East and West, are simply exclusive and ritual attachments to a certain few of the phenomena of this real process, or second birth. Therefore, the East is traditionally busy with ascent, knowing little of descent, and the West very busy with descent, the descending power, knowing little of the ascent. The second birth truly is a possibility, our only real possibility, and its process is truly enacted only in satsang, in the living present relationship to one who lives as the heart. Not one who suggests it, who has experienced it, who envisions it, who only thinks about it, who only teaches about it, but one who is the heart, without even limiting qualifications. In such satsang, in the company and conditions created by such a one, the cycle of descent and ascent is restored in a very simple, natural way, without the disciples applying himself methodically to the creation of that cycle or to the restoration of that pattern of energy. The disciple or devotee who lives with such satsang as a condition of his very existence does not apply himself to the point of view or the methods of spirituality or religion for the sake of truth. By the way, for those who don't know, but the word satsang means basically divine communion, holy communion, always in relationship, always in communion with the God power, with the divine power, with the divine state, with the divine place. That's true holy communion, and that's the only way to be free of first birth stuff, entering into second birth stuff, opening out. That's what satsang does. It's like connecting up to the sun rather than to the clouds. Divine communion. His entire spiritual practice known as sadhana, is to live this condition of this relationship. He is not distracted by any search for the descending force or for the ascending power. He turns simply to the man of understanding, the divine guru, and to the very condition of his own life, which is relationship. Such a disciple passes through various forms of crisis until there is spontaneous insight or recognition of the ordinary pattern of his life. I have described that pattern as the avoidance of relationship. The radical recognition of this pattern is true understanding. The perfect enjoyment of understanding is absolute truth. The subtle process alive in satsang is not a problematic concern with the descending or the ascending power. It is the spontaneous, intelligent siddhi or real spiritual power of the Son, the true heart that is reality. The true disciple is not engaged in an intentional process of reception or return. He abides simply in relationship, and the primary intensity of the heart's light, the conscious power that proceeds in satsang, is the entire means for the crisis of intelligence or recognition in the disciple. In the meantime, there are secondary phenomena or enjoyments associated with satsang, and these are the reflections of the descending and ascending energy. But they are purely secondary. They are enjoyments. They are like becoming healthy. They are not themselves truth. One who is distracted by these phenomena contracts himself and separates himself from all forms of relationship. Only relationship is appropriate. There is no need to be concerned with the descending or the ascending power. There is no need to grasp it or to find it. All such concerns are an expression of primary dilemma, of narcissus. Devotee asks, how is this force or light experienced so that men reject it? Is the experience itself painful, or is something threatening? SIDDHAS says, the ultimate reasons are subtle. They have nothing to do with what can be communicated mentally. What causes laughter? What causes vomiting? There are secondary events to which laughter or vomiting may be the reaction, but the selection or interpretation of a cause cannot be justified conceptually because it is not observed. The observation of a cause is not a precondition for laughter, vomiting, or life itself. It is not so much that the forms of rejection are an effect of something. They are the action. The rejection or reaction is spontaneous. It is this contraction of which I have spoken, but its basis is subtle, prior to life, prior to thought, prior to perception. The perceiver and the perception are already this. They are already bent. They are already contracted. They themselves is this rejection. They are already forms of primary dilemma. The true answer is always subtle and not spoken. Even true or real questions are always subtle. The question put in the form of concepts is not the real question. Your real question is the sensation that motivates your thoughts and words. The answer, likewise, is not a concept, not in the form of concepts or an observation. It must be in the form of radical, direct recognition of the subtle condition that is your question, your suffering, your dilemma, the motivation of your search. Nothing else can satisfy. No explanation is equal to it. There is a sense in which the whole process of rejection or the avoidance of relationship is a spontaneous reaction to the action that is existence, manifest existence. Wherever there is an action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. There is the heart or one reality. There is appearance and there is the contraction that is the reaction to that appearance. Men are living as that reaction. When they recognize their own activity, which is their suffering, consciousness again realizes its nature as the heart, which is always already open, which is prior to manifestation, which is not any form of dilemma. The genuine roots of that whole process that is our suffering or disturbance are not truly explainable in any conceptual terms. They can only be undermined or obviated in the recognition. Therefore, recognition is the root process of sadhana, of one's spiritual practice, the spontaneous and intelligent process of satsang, of divine communion. There is no second birth apart from radical spiritual practice or sadhana, apart from conscious satsang or divine communion, actual moment to moment living of this relationship, the manifest condition of the heart. The form and function given as grace to men for the enjoyment of this satsang is the living association with the man of understanding, the guru or friend who lives as the heart, the one reality. When men realize they are suffering, that they are bent, that there is a subtle dilemma, they begin to seek. The only places there are in which to seek are the psychophysical realms of the descending and ascending force, which are the structure of manifest life. Therefore, men go about the business of exploitation and discipline until they realize the failure of the search. When this occurs, a man has become capable of satsang. Devotee. Is it necessary for us to have a true and conscious relationship with you and with everyone we know if we want to live a spiritual life or a life of understanding? Adida. Well, it would only be nicer. If it were necessary, then satsang couldn't take place. If this process depended on everyone here already enjoying relationship consciously, perfectly, it would never begin. It is nicer when it becomes conscious, when a person begins to move into the natural conductivity of satsang, when he begins to enjoy its true quality, its subtle quality, and returns the force of life and of consciousness in a very natural way. But it is not required. It is not a precondition. There are no conditions for relationship. It is already the case. Some are conscious of it and some are not. There are some with whom we enjoy relationship as a real condition, whereas we serve only as a form of association and an extension of desire for them. And the opposite may also be true. In such a situation where there is an apparent conflict, a person must decide whether he has the strength or the interest to live that relationship, whether to release it or else to change the quality or the conditions of that relationship as a daily experience. Devotee. Does a person have a responsibility to make the other person in a relationship more conscious? Adida. That responsibility is inherent in relationship itself. The very fact of living in that direct relational way, rather than the usual contracted way, is itself to serve the communication of the force of consciousness. Do you see? So that responsibility is already satisfied by it. It is not necessary to add to that relational force any sort of secondary motivation to change the other person. Where such motivations appear, our relationships tend to become an extension of our own search. To that degree, we fall back into association again. Yes, but to live relationship with other beings is itself the form of satsang. Taken from The Method of the SIDDHAS by Franklin Jones or Adidas Samraj. Do you understand? We are already in relationship when living like this. When living like the open hand, we are already in relationship with everything. We are already intimate. We are already exercising inherent relationship. The body-mind is being lived by God, by the divine, by that power. We are the son under all circumstances, and everyone is attracted to the sun. So live in relationship with the sun at all times, forgetting the clouds. SIDDHAS is the sun for me. Da.